Previously on Man Children of the Atom. There's no handcuffs or ball gags in this bed.
Oh, why didn't you figure it out?
That's how he lost the use of his legs. He pounded that sand too hard, hurt his feet.
Yeah, and you know what? They just plumb gave up.
Why are you saying this to her?
Yes,
What is possessing you to say these words to this woman? Are you out of your mind? Like, you know what? Fuck you. You don't have adamantium anymore. All right, and welcome to Man Children of the Atom. We are in our 10th episode, talking about the 10th and final episode of Season 1 of X-Men 97, Tolerance is Extinction, Part 3. I'm Matt.
I'm Bret.
Bret, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. We are racing rapidly towards Christmas, and I am working day and night to finish a big present for the girls.
Ooh.
And my body's giving up on me because I'm like putting it together with hammers and nails and whatnot, and so it's taking its toll on my aging body.
So knowing this won't come out until Christmas has well passed, would it be betraying the secret of the gift to say what it is you're building?
So there is a crawl space in my daughter's room, and I'm building a cage to put them in there. No, I have been like stripping out all the gross stuff from it and building what I hope will be seen as a whimsical sort of hangout room. My wife Ashley sent me a video months ago, like, oh, this is a cute thing. I saw somebody from around town I know that did this for their kid. They said it's not that expensive. It's much more expensive than I thought it would be. But I'm now too deep to now I'm too deep to get out.
Oh no.
But it's, luckily I'm a short guy, but I'm still like bent over at the waist,
oh, God.
like ripping out nails and hammering in beadboard and hanging up fabric. As a side note to this project, I went to Joanne Fabric for the first time in my life. What an overwhelming place to walk into.
Oh, big time.
I greatly underestimated how overwhelming it would be, and I vastly overestimated my ability to handle it. And I texted Ashley immediately and was like, I don't think I can find fabric here, just because there are so many. And it's also, everything is on sale, but like because there are so many for sale signs, it's like I don't know what goes to what, or if I'm gonna end up spending $1,000 on a sheet of heart-shaped paper. But I found a very nice lady who helped me.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but
Joanne Fabric herself.
the Joanne herself. But I'm nearly done. I'm going to put the finishing touches on it this weekend, hopefully, if everything arrives via the mail.
Yep. And of course,
how about you?
This is an official endorsement. Thank you, Joanne Fabric, for sponsoring our show.
Oh my
In a
God,
legally binding way, you are our first advertiser.
and they are now obligated to give me discounts.
Absolutely obligated. Yeah, that sounds like quite an undertaking. When is it a secret from them?
Oh yeah.
How do you find like opportunities to work on it without them knowing, given it's attached to their bedroom? Like you can't work on it at night then.
Because my friend I work from home.
Oh yes, that old loophole.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. And so I ship them off to school and I rush home, and I just get in there immediately and
in between paying full attention to your job for the full 8 hours, you find these extra minutes to work on.
I tie myself to my chair and I lock the door and I don't take my eyes off my computer all 8 hours.
I know this about
even
you.
Through lunch.
Oh
yeah,
working like a dog.
Yeah, I was quite literally covered in fiberglass today, so I I had to rip out some insulation. But enough about that. How are you doing in your preparation for the high holidays?
Oh, well, I think we're as prepared as we're going to get. We were talking before the air. We have some transportation stuff to figure out now where the car we're going to be using to drive in just got some tire damage. So we got to solve that by Sunday. And today's
Thursday.
And then we'll go to the Milky Way ghetto of Connecticut. As you,
yes,
dubbed it. Um, yeah, I feel compelled for whatever reason, talking about Crystal Lake, to, if it hasn't been apparent, listeners, from some of our little comments along the way, these episodes are not recorded generally anywhere close to when you're listening to them right now. This show has been recorded over the course of a year, so do with that what you will. This we are recording the week before Christmas, but you're not going to hear it until late January, maybe?
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So enjoy our naivety about whatever's going to happen in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, we are still blissfully hanging out pre-Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows what things will happen by the end of January?
Oh, God.
Maybe the government will shut down this Friday. Who knows?
Our trial of mojo jokes and Elon Musk being mojo. It's like, oh no. We could laugh because we thought we were done with all that shit.
Oh, when the AI monitors pick up the show and hear us disparaging them, we're getting knocks in our doors.
Oh, my God.
Bastion himself is gonna come.
How dare you trash talk them to your dozen of listeners?
Dozen. If that.
Well, I dropped the S. I didn't pluralize it.
Even then, dozen is very hopeful on your part.
Well, what can I say? I'm a constant optimist.
Much more than me. So Tolerance is Extinction Part 3.
Yeah.
Initial thoughts.
Solid ending. I don't think it was, well, actually, no. We'll get into more of the detail about it. The core, one of the core like plot lines in it, the Xavier Magneto stuff, I think works better in theory than in practice. I like the idea more than I like the execution. All the action stuff is great in this episode.
We're right on the same page. And so I watched this twice today because I watched it the first time and I was like, oh, I feel like this might be the weakest of the three Tolerance is Extinction episodes. And I was particularly like, I don't like this Xavier Magneto through line. And I couldn't quite figure out why. And then I watched it again just before we started recording. And not only have I identified why I dislike it, but I believe I have come up with a better version of it.
Oh.
And so when we get there,
okay,
I'm going to pitch you on how I would fix this.
So stay tuned, listeners. Crash, Ted, all of you, Joanne, all of you listening.
Fabian
Easy
Crash Bandicoot. All right. So we begin with the Birds Turn, which is film semiotics for We Are in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, the 1960s.
The 1960s, big time. Yeah, I don't know. I laughed when I heard that song.
It's one of those things where if you grew up around our age or older, and you grew up watching movies from that generation, or more specifically, modern movies about that generation.
Like, did they straight up use it in Forrest Gump, probably, or something?
Yeah, but like this is one of those songs in like documentaries. I was a big documentary geek about the 60s. I was fascinated by it. This is one of those songs, in addition to like All Along the Watchtower, Run Through the Jungle by CCR, like a handful of songs that are just like the stock song that they would play to denote that we are now in the 1960s.
You're not wrong.
And so it's very cliche. And so, yes, I also thought it was very funny when that song came on.
Yep. Younger Xavier and younger Magneto in this bar in the 60s in whatever country, close to whatever conflict they were both present at. Did they ever name where it actually...
Not in the show.
I don't think it was Vietnam.
I mean, in the comics, I feel like it's always very vague about like...
somewhere European-ish. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, this scene with the two of them... Boy, and I'm sure it was intentional. Boy, they are just flirting it up. Even some of the facial expressions on Xavier that they draw him with, like this is two guys picking each other up in the 60s when you weren't allowed to do that in public.
Yeah, I think I feel like in this scene they are making Xavier especially gay coded.
Yeah,
there's something very light about him, and like he's just like gesticulating a lot, and he's like very smiley. I don't know. And once again, finding myself, especially as I get older, more and more agreeing with almost everything Magneto says. Great line here. He goes, "People don't want to be better." And I was just sitting on my couch like, "You're damn right, Mags. You got that right. People do not want to be better." I am fascinated, though, by the reveal in this scene that Magneto is a mutant who, until this point, has not met other mutants.
Yeah.
And years ago, after X-Men 2 or X-Men 3, the movie, I
Hmm.
don't remember which one, there was a talk of like, all right, well, the X-Men trilogy is done with, what's next?
Mm.
And one of the early gossip,
Oh, I think I know where this is going, but
was
continue.
a young Magneto movie where he is hunting Nazis.
Yeah.
And if I ever got that movie, or even honestly, now you want to give me a four-part miniseries
Hmm.
TV show where there's maybe like flashbacks to him as a kid. It doesn't need to be the Holocaust. You can make up a different conflict. I don't care if you don't want to like if Disney doesn't want to get their get their fingerprints on the Holocaust. But just like but the idea of like a kid who has powers who is like I think I'm the only one who can do it and like doesn't realize that other people are doing it.
Yeah.
Like there's always that sense where like this sort of first generation of mutants where like the idea that mutants exist is not part of the public conversation yet. It's still very like maybe a thing that's happening, but it's more like a conspiracy theory you could imagine. They don't use those words,
Hmm.
but I'm just fascinated by a character going through that. Like that's a very interesting thing to see. And so you give me a good showrunner and a good writer, fuck it, put Michael Fassbender in there. I don't care. And
All right,
give me
we'll
that.
let him in my fantasy. I'll let Michael
Well,
Fassbender
I mean,
work for me.
he's done him. He's been Magneto a couple times. Maybe he doesn't want to do it
That's
anymore, but
true. Also, it's hard to play him younger now.
yeah, and especially I don't want that de-aging crap. So get rid of
No,
that.
forget about it. I would watch this, and also to the world legally consider this talking about it on a podcast the same as mailing it to himself. This
Yes,
is Brett's
yes.
idea.
I
Consider this our pitch.
just I want to create it by credit. I don't care. Stanley can pound sand for all I care.
From beyond the grave.
Yeah, he can pound sand while he's pushing up daisies.
This idea was so good, I had to come back. Excelsior!
He that son of a bitch will still find a way to screw me out of residuals. I
Co-created
guarantee you
by
that.
Brett Stanley. I shouldn't say your
And
last
oh
name.
no.
Hold on. We're gonna scrub that last name. Co-created by Brett and Stan.
No. I want you to beep it out like in Kill Bill when they beep the bride's name.
Oh,
That's what we gotta
I
do.
think we can do that. We can learn to do that.
Or also done in The People's Joker, which I watched recently and loved
What is this?
as a The People's Joker. It's Vera Drew is a filmmaker. She was an editor for what's that comedian's name? He's Tim Heidecker.
Oh, okay.
She was an editor on his show for years.
On Tim and Eric?
I think Tim and
Oh,
Eric, but
I'm now I am paying rapt attention. Please continue.
and so she is a trans woman, and so it is about it's sort of like an autobiographical story told through the lens of the Gotham universe, and
Interesting.
or the Gotham universe, like the Batman universe. I say Gotham because it obviously takes place in a fictional Gotham,
Sure.
and it's like it's hyper cheap. It's a very low budget movie, but they use so many different types of animation and it's one of those movies where I think I put this in my letterbox review. You can like see the blood under the fingernails of the creators as they like drag themselves across the finish
Oh
line.
God.
Like it is just so many like they just I don't want to say cut corners, but they just made it any way possible. It is, in my estimation, and this is one of my favorite movies of all time, so I don't say this lightly. It is the Evil Dead 2 of our generation. Whereas Evil Dead 2 had puppets and it had old Hollywood tricks with the camera and it had stop motion. Like this has literal like stop motion with like action figures.
Oh wow.
It has models, it has paintings as the backgrounds with like the actors like superimposed over them. It has CGI. It has like MS Paint level art. Just like and like just to get this thing finished. And it's funny and it's touching and I think it's really great.
Oh.
And it's also trippy. It has like avant-garde sequences where through at certain points when like that is called upon to denote like this character is going through something mentally or emotionally. There's two or three of those sequences that I think are really cool and really well done. But
Awesome.
if it's one of those movies where if you are a fan of movies, you might not like it because
Mm.
it's low rent and there's not a ton of action in it, and it's about a very specific thing. But if you are a fan of filmmaking, I can't imagine you not loving this movie. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, I consider my interest peaked.
High recommend. It's on Mubi, so you'd have to get a Mubi.
Okay.
I
my
have
interest
an account.
just my interest just waned.
I have an account until the end of January. I can give you my credentials and you can watch it.
Yeah. The People's Joker. All right. Noted. Back to the episode.
So
we get our reveal. I thought this was really effective because how often does a show cold open with an actual flashback scene, right? That's just a really common thing to do.
Right.
So the fact that we get this to reveal that this is not a flashback, Xavier has recreated this moment in both of their minds. I thought actually that was pretty effective.
And what I like about it is we get this, the transition is cool because there is like that trippy painting that just sort of melts away. And then Magneto turns to the camera and his like his hair grows and he gets older. It's like a cool little animation transition that I really like.
Because he hears Rogue's voice and that's like his like key back. But then I mean, not the first time we've kind of been like, yeah, Magneto's right. I think this is a violation. Like, and it's
yes, I love that line.
Yeah, the way I think, and maybe this is some of the things that you were going to say, I don't know, but it's not just that Xavier entered his mind and took his will. He didn't just like turn back the planet's magnetism on or whatever. He did it in this way that's really intimate, that draws on their personal connection to each other. Like he's really going above and beyond just the bare necessities of why he's in his mind in the first place.
And that's part of why this did not sit well with me. And we'll talk about it as we go. But in this scene, we also get Magneto calls it a pogrom. They're doing a pogrom on our people. Just lending to that thing that we've talked about throughout the season, which is always finding ways to just insert little words or phrases to constantly be like, this is very political without resorting to being a Twitter thread.
I like, there is, I don't know if I would call it a slip up exactly, but I think one of the few things that they give him dialogue where it's not like Magneto is right is they have him refer to humans as their genetic inferiors. Yes. And here you see this little flash of like, for all that he does have heroic qualities, here is the very thing that he despises in humans, right? Seeing mutants as lesser. He's seeing that the reverse of that too. And I feel like for so much of the rest of it, the theme of the show has been like, Magneto's right, Magneto's right, Magneto's right. And here it's like, okay, maybe some of his views are not 100% noble, I guess.
Yeah, and that's why it's a more interesting way to go, right? Where it's like when you have been... So you don't need to be a victim to become a supremacist. There are people who are very entitled and have had very easy lives who hold those views.
Yeah.
But in Magneto's case, he's been victimized so much that he has become a supremacist, a mutant supremacist. Yeah. And that it would be interesting to confront that. In order to do so, it would have to be more about that than the fight scene, which they're probably not going to do in a cartoon, especially the last episode of a cartoon. Right. But you're right for bringing that line up. I wish that they played with that a little bit more and investigated that a little bit more. But still a good episode.
Sure. And Magneto does bring back a line, I think all the way from maybe like early episodes of the original of my village used reason while they used tanks. Yeah. And that's right. A consistent through line of like this is his core understanding of the problem with Xavier's dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's seen what happens when it fails. We get pulled out of this and we see the battle in real life. Yeah. Cool shot of Xavier and Magneto sort of floating around in the air. Yep. And Xavier just mind blasting Magneto. It reminded me of like a Marvel vs. Capcom type game where it's just like he's going like Super Saiyan on him like with this power. This is what we always have to bring up outfits. This is my favorite Xavier look. The green jumpsuit and gloves. Yes. What I from here on out I'm going to call his adventure suit. It's like whenever he's going on a little adventure, he puts this on.
Yeah, that sort of like dark brownish green. Yep. I will. Maybe this is the time to do it. Should we open up the X-Files here and talk about what this moment seems to be steering towards, and then the rest of the episode is steering away from?
Please do it.
Brett, were you following? Well, I guess it really impacted the whole Marvel Comics universe. Do you remember Onslaught?
Of course, I remember the first. I believe the first big crossover of the '90s, at least with the maybe.
It was
not just the X-Men, but everybody.
It was huge. And that was the thing. It started as X-Men crossover stuff, and then it became the whole Marvel universe. And it was an excuse to reboot like all the non-X titles pretty much temporarily.
Yeah.
But the setup for that, and it was probably a retcon. I don't know if they had this in mind from the jump, but the Fatal Attractions things happen in the comics. Wolverine gets his adamantium yanked out, and you get, actually, I think one of the panels looks a lot like the shot that you were just commenting on, Brett, where instead of entering his mind to like make him do the right thing or whatever, Xavier just wipes out Magneto's mind, just turns him into a vegetable, basically. And he's that way he's like essentially all but comatose for a while. Colossus is taking care of him on Avalon, but they call it back, a couple of years, however many years later it was, and say, well, in that moment that their minds were connected, whatever was wicked in Magneto like got into Xavier, and their two like essences and powers, and that turn into this psionic entity, Onslaught, who's knows all of the X-Men's weaknesses, and I don't even remember what his goal was, reshape the world, something. But it became this massive event. As a character, not actually all that interesting. The concept is better than, I don't even know if it's great, but the concepts were interesting, at least, than the execution of it.
Sure.
And so it seemed like maybe, are they setting that up with the way that they're doing this scene? And we'll get through it throughout the episode, but they do take it in a different direction, right? He doesn't just shut them down. It's not, they find in, I don't know, a way that I think works in mediocrely. They do find like a more resolution with each other in that psychic flooded bar, whatever, rather than it being like the seeds of evil being planted.
Yeah, and Onslaught is kind of, maybe famously is a little bit too strong, but it is, I think, seen as one of the lesser big crossovers of the Marvel crossover series.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the charm of like a Secret Wars, which was basically made just to sell toys. I think that that's like on paper, that's why they did it. But it's just like not, like the Onslaught character, as you point out, did not go on to be a famous character.
No.
The design is fine, but did not become an iconic design. It's the resolution isn't this groundbreaking resolution. I think like the Hulk rips his exoskeleton off or something.
That's even just, I think, lead up to it. That Hulk breaks his physical form, but then he's pure energy. So I mean, check your bullshit science on this, but everyone who's not a mutant except the Scarlet Witch has to like jump into him to give enough physical mass for all of the mutants to destroy him. Because something about if they're mutants, he'll latch onto the mutant gene. Some dumb explanation. Because the whole thing was just a setup because Marvel wanted to like relaunch Avengers and Fantastic Four and redo the origin stories in the modern, what was then the modern era. And they did like a year of this Heroes Reborn universe, but then they were like,
Heroes Reborn, yes, that's what it was called.
Yeah, and then they're like, turns out that's just a little pocket dimension that Franklin Richards created.
Yes, and then it became a pocket dimension. Oh God, the loopholes and the things you remember when you jump down the comic book memory hole are very funny.
Well, I'm going to actually hold my finger in this X-File just for one more moment. Because as much as so at the time I was a kid, and yes, I was excited because it was a big event in the Marvel universe. But
it's probably the first one that we were like living through.
Something like that, at least paying attention to. And in retrospect, right, I think a lot of it doesn't really hold up great. But the one moment that I think was the best moment of this entire Onslaught event happened real early in the Onslaught X-Men one shot, and it's this one where he's attacked the mansion and the team is split up and doing things, and like 4 of them are in like the computer rooms. I think it's when they're learning that Xavier has kept these records of how he would kill any of the X-Men if he ever needed to. If they went
very
bad.
Batman-esque.
Very Batman-esque, exactly. And Iceman's there, And it looks like he's just standing there uselessly because, like, I don't know, what's he going to do? They're already looking at the computer.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it's this great couple of panels where he just out of nowhere shoots ice at the wall and hits Onslaught. And it's, this, wow, I was invisible. I was shielded psychically. How did you know? And he's just like, I was seeing the world solely in terms of temperature.
Oh, that's cool.
That was a cool, like that for me is like the moment that made the whole Onslaught thing worth it is this like, oh, there's a creative, and it feels like it makes sense, right? With his power set.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. My favorite moment from the Onslaught thing.
And the moment that's going to close the X-Files for us for now.
Yes.
We get the super mental blast, and we get the first of 3 series of cameos, what I will call the cameo count.
Yep.
We get Silver Samurai, Iron Man and Captain America, Daredevil, and then Doctor Strange. Mid surgery, Doctor Strange.
Emphasis on the
Very
doctor.
funny to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's great is it is clearly like post his becoming like the mystic Doctor Strange, but he's still like, well, I'm still a doctor.
They're allowing this guy to still perform surgeries as a magic man. I mean, I guess granted at this point the power is out, so they probably were like, hey, we need you big time. But it was fascinating to me that this guy was just performing in medical garb.
Is there a spin-off potential here where it's basically just House, but it's Doctor Strange?
Here's the thing. It's House with Doctor Strange, but it's all medical maladies.
Yeah.
And he has to go through books and be like, oh, you got a friggin' succubus demon in your brain. So every issue is a new magical malady.
It's never lupus, but it is lycanthropy, which is linguistically close. Both wolf
I think
things.
this works.
Yeah.
He could battle a werewolf. He could battle the aliens from Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
He could fight all kinds of things. This would be great.
He could harass his interns and tell them they're stupid and everything. Yeah.
Oh, well, it could be very Scrubs-esque where there's the young doctors that are coming up and he's like teaching them.
There you go.
He's very Dr. Coxian, if you ever watched that show.
You know what? That one, strangely, that never hit right for me. The few episodes I saw, I feel like it couldn't pick a tone if it was a comedy or like more serious sometimes.
It did do both, which is why I was a massive fan of that show. I owned the DVDs.
Oh my goodness!
I quote it to this day with our friend Anders.
Yeah. Oh sure.
He was a big fan of it as well. All right, Bastion 2.0.
Bastion 2.0.
Something I really like about this episode is that Bastion is constantly changing his look, and so we get these different iterations of him. He walks out with this long beard and this metal body. I feel like he looks something right out of the Metal Gear Solid series. If you ever played those video games,
I sure have. Not all of them, but enough of them. I love that series.
Oh man, Metal Gear Solid 3 is one of my favorite games of all time.
It's a great game.
It's my favorite. All right, something I missed the first time around. Bastion says that his mother begged Xavier to take him in, and that his mom, the implication there being that his mom lied to him about it. And I don't like that for the sole reason of stop trying to make me sympathize with genocidal maniacs. I feel like pop culture has a real issue where every bad guy has to have a sad backstory. No, they just want to kill people. Not every bad guy is secretly a good guy. Sometimes bad people are just terrible people. And you don't have to sympathize with them. You don't have to empathize with them. You don't even really need to understand them beyond the fact that they're just a terrible person.
I agree with your point. And also, it doesn't turn and make him by all accounts, other than that, his parents treated him well. Like, it doesn't make it a full-on tragedy. Did keep this critical piece of information. That to me, it's not something that redeems him. It's just like if he had seen it a different way, would he have gone down the same path? Probably, yeah, because there's still enough other shit.
Yeah, and they have a couple things in this scene where they seem to be pointing at something deeper going on with him. He says the line "equal opportunity suicide," and I wrote the line that this is Bastion at his most Reddit user, edgelord-esque mentality.
Oh God, Reddit didn't even exist yet in 1997.
Yeah, no, it was still the twinkle in the eye of some geek.
IQC, what was that chap? Never mind.
Oh, I was not an early adopter of the internet. I just used AIM to try and talk to girls. in my class
Yeah.
and write the occasional pithy away
Oh,
message.
this
Beyond that,
that's right.
I was not a big internet guy.
Fair enough.
Storm with a cool line here. She says, "None choose to be born. That's why we must never begrudge them being."
I liked that too. Yep.
So, but after this, Bastion says something about how, like, I didn't ask to be born this way. And he says that he has urges. And I didn't know what that was referring to.
Oh, he jerks off 8 times a day.
That's, you know what, though? Because when you say urges, it sounds like a sexual thing. But like, is the Nimrod things in his brain like telling him to kill mutants all the time? Like, is that what that
The
is?
Alex Mack Sentinel jizz?
Yeah.
I think that is the implication there is he's at the like intersection of like having his own free will being a person, but also having this pre-programmed stuff. I think he's at on that midpoint.
That would be interesting again, but I feel like they just don't do it justice.
Fair.
So after this, we get our cameo count number 2.
We do in a minute, but I'll call out a line I wrote down here is when people are good, too damn good, and I like this.
Yeah.
It's like a backhanded compliment because he's mad about it, but like even with everything that's disappointing about the human race, enough people are still relatively pro-social enough that most people don't actively want to, commit genocide and things like this. Most people have a limit, I guess I would say, even if they have some prejudiced beliefs. And here, him thinking more that like robot brain, like, nope, what does he say? Worse than tolerance is empathy, or maybe he says that later. But this idea that like humanity won't pull the trigger, they'll do half measures, and this thing's just going to drag on forever.
Later on, he when he's taunting Cable, he says like, "Oh, I could have done death marches or this or that, but I just wiped out Genosha in 4,000 seconds." Yeah. It's like this again, like that Reddit, like, "Oh, this is the most logical thing to do." Yeah. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. But yeah, it's interesting that he hates people for the opposite reason that Magneto hates people. Magneto hates people because he thinks they're inherently terrible.
Yeah.
And Bastion hates them because he's like, well, they're not bad enough. Like they feel sorry for people and things like that. Yeah. But cameo count 2.0. We get Black Panther.
Yeah.
We get, and I almost fell out of my seat the first time I saw Cloak and Dagger show up. I could not believe that they're straight out of the 90s. Maybe they came up in the 80s, but I was like, these are like low level characters. Yep. I know there are people who love them, but I could not believe that they made an appearance.
They got a TV show somewhat recently. I saw the pilot of it. It was okay.
Yeah. A live action or cartoon?
Live action.
That's insane.
I was curious if it would be good. Like the pilot was good enough. I don't know if it was good or not as a series, but
I can't imagine it was. Omega Red and 2 others. I forget the girl's name.
Dark Star, and I think Crimson Dynamo was the other one.
Oh, maybe
it was more like an Iron Man character. But yeah, the Russian team. Yeah.
Yes, the Ruskies are together. Yeah. And then Alpha Flight and Psylocke. I didn't see if there was somebody else there besides Alpha Flight.
I was kind of this one confused me. Why was Psylocke with Alpha Flight? And who is this other person?
Psylocke has never, as far as I know, been with Alpha Flight, so it was a very confused. She's not even Canadian.
She's met them probably, but
yeah, I'm sure.
Is this just a nod to Canada still having those ties to England? Like Psylocke's there on the Crown's order.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I mean, I'm not disappointed to see her. She's cool.
Yeah,
I think Alpha Flight too.
Yeah, it calls back to in the original series with, I think, the Phoenix, or when the M-Cron crystal is like fucking stuff up and like the world is going crazy. There was like a Spider-Man cameo.
And wasn't it like just his hand or something like that? Because they didn't.
Yeah, sure. It was very Easter eggy.
Yeah. You know what it is about this one shot, and not to overfocus on it. It's not a problem. I don't mind that they're together. It looks cool. It just begs the question of like, oh, wait, what's the story here? Why are they together? I feel like there's a story here.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's an odd coupling. So after we do this, other cameo roundup, we go back. Cable has sort of been defeated. We find out that he had tried to save his mom 200 times before finally giving up. And they are ready to execute this man.
They are. And we get some lines here. I mean, Bash me very dismissive of his carbon copy mothers.
Yeah, he's really jabbing.
Yeah, for someone who builds endless robots. He still has a problem with clones. But then also we get Sinister, who it wasn't just a one-off. Like, he is really attached to calling him a writhing thing, and it is just
this guy.
Yikes!
This guy.
He
just cannot be.
It's the Creeps version of like calling him Big Tuna at this point. Like, it's. Well, you say it once, okay, but like he keeps it up. It's like, what is your attachment to this term for Cable?
Yeah, it's a fetish. This guy's got a real fetish. Yeah. This part is one of my, I don't want to say least favorite parts of the episode because it is cool, but it is a real like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
Where Phoenix just appears and she, momentarily defeats Bastion and frees the X-Men. I do love when Phoenix rises, Storm's laugh.
Yes, she knows.
Storm's laugh is great. I fucking love that. Like, she's just like so happy. Yep. She defeats Bastion. God damn it. She defeats Bastion and then afterwards she goes, "The Phoenix Force is gone now. How convenient."
I feel like, what happens subsequently, like in next season or whatever, retroactively makes this scene work or not work. Because if it's just like the ass pull, like, and then she's the Phoenix for 10 seconds, it sucks. But if it becomes like a recurring thing, is like, we thought we were done with Phoenix and she keeps coming back in these moments, it could be a build up.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, but in the moment, it's like, this doesn't make a ton of sense.
No, it does look cool, but you're right.
A couple lines here. Jean says they do not, of the robots, his robot slaves, they did not choose to become slaves they hate. And I mean, some of them did. Some of them knew exactly what they were getting in for. And now that they're free, I had the question, do you think these people are keeping these robot parts inside of them? Or are they just like shitting out these robot parts? Like,
those the two.
What is the expulsion process? Because they are completely altered by whatever nanobots we'll call it. They can fly, they can heal themselves, they have superpower, they're shooting shit out of their eyes and their hands, and now they're no longer robots. But whatever was in them has to go somewhere. So what is that process like? That's what I want to know.
Aggressive cancer now.
Oh no. I think you're right.
They can't use the microwave. They can't stand too close to it. It's
every time we use the microwave, I shit myself. That's
every airport metal detector takes 25 minutes because everybody has to get
You can't allow these people on a plane. The same way that you're not allowed to keep like the battery inside of your carry-on luggage because they're afraid it might explode and burn the thing down.
Right.
These people cannot be allowed on planes because they just might go up any second.
But I can fold myself into the carry-on size.
Oh, well, speaking of Sinister, he gets his little petri dish of DNA ripped out of him, and he turns into a little old man.
Goblin man.
Old Sinister is gross.
Oh, yeah, he's nasty. And they get, and I guess I want to comment more when we do our recap episode, our episode 11 full series recap, but we get the kind of cap on what passes for Morph's arc here when they overcome Sinister finally, right? But showing Sinister the mirror of his true form. Mm-hmm. That's like kind of I guess there's an emotional cap to Morph's arc later, but yeah,
it's one of those things where it's like, well, Morph didn't defeat Sinister. Nope. Sinister obviously not completely defeated because he runs away crying. But I do like Morph's looks the same to me. That's cool.
That was cool.
And now we get Bastion 3.0. This is his final form. You go. He rips Cable's arm off and beats him with it. And boy, oh boy, would I love to do this one day to somebody. There are a lot of people who I cannot stand, and if I could just like rip off a part of their body and beat them with it, crowning achievement. That would be.
Wow.
And I've got a list. I've got a list of people that I would love to do this too.
That's that part of a manifesto.
Oh yeah, no. After I rip off a person's leg inside literally kicking their own ass with it, when the police eventually take me down, they're gonna find a manifesto.
Brett, is this the Bret version of falling down? Just an increasingly unhinged response to life's difficulties.
it's falling down with 90% less Nazism and 100% more beating people with their own body
Also,
parts.
I guess for someone who has whatever thousands of like built-in weapons, the fact that he chooses
Yes.
to rip his arm off and hit him with it, like that's a choice.
Oh, he is trying to humiliate
Oh,
this man.
that,
But I
you know
loved
what?
it. And
It
then he
is.
uses
It's a Mortal Kombat fatality move, is what it is.
oh, it absolutely oh, Jax absolutely
Oh,
had this
there
fatality
you
where
go.
he ripped off a person's arms and then beat him to death with them.
Uh,
I do like that he
friendship,
then uses the
friendship.
arm. He uses the arm to evolve himself into the final phase of
Yeah,
3.0. He's like he's like a boss at the end of a game where you're just going through different phases.
very much so. It's very much got that. It's his real Sephiroth one-winged angel form here.
And this is where he just loses his mind and he's like, I'm going to basically throw Asteroid M into the earth and just kill everybody. Now it's not even about killing mutants, it's just about like a total extinction of the world.
Yep, a quick extinction.
Next, we get the Charles and Magneto are back together.
Yeah, and this is the moment where Magneto has seemingly lost his memory now, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you?
And
I feel like you have. I have reactions to this. I feel like you have reactions to this. You take the lead here.
I feel like it doesn't portray Xavier as bad for doing this to Magneto.
Like it doesn't
And I have
hold
a
him
real
accountable for it.
yeah, and I have a real problem with that.
Yeah.
And not even and it's not even because it's not a thing where it's like this dude's doing crazy shit. We have to do this fucked up thing to him to stop it.
Yep.
And like we're dealing with the weight of that. This is this was a good thing that he did it.
Yeah.
And it's like that's not my read on the situation at
No,
all.
we feel very similarly, and the fact that it's he's like lying to him almost. When I'm here to help,
Yeah.
and it's like you are pretending like you had nothing to do with this. It's the. Do you ever watch? I think you should leave.
Oh, of course. He's the guy in
It's
hot
the
dog.
hot dog. It is. It's the hot dog car guy. Someone did this. We're looking for the guy who did this.
I mean, it's crazy because it's basically like Matthew, you know how much I hate talking politics on
I
the
do
show.
know that, Bartholomew.
But it's basically like every right winger's fear of like what liberals want to do to you, which is like rip out who you are and then be like, no, actually, you're this guy. Don't you want to be the guy I want you to be? And the fact that the show doesn't treat that as fucked up is for a show that's been so good and has tackled a lot of thorny things and just like has done like the relationships between these characters so well. It just feels very there were aspects of this final episode that feel very rushed to me. Like I was mentioning the Bastion thing where he's talking about like, oh, I'm actually kind of like a human that's kind of being fucked over by this robot thing. Like that's very implied, but not really explored. This part is supposed to be like the centerpiece of this episode, the relationship between Magneto and Xavier, and it's just like it's like Xavier's like, well, he just needs a reset, a restart. Like we just need to
Factory defaults.
take a yeah, we just need to take a little paper clip, like unwind and hit that button in Magneto, and he'll be fine afterwards.
Yes.
And as we go, I'm going to give you how I would do this, but. You go now. You tell me more about how you feel about
No,
this.
it's exactly the same. It's because it's not just like is it so because it's scripted and they can only say what's written. Xavier doesn't seem troubled by this by this deception that he's doing to ostensibly like his best friend. Best friend to me? I don't know.
Well, he literally says they're like brothers.
Yeah, and he like it's like blithely stepping forward with this like all is forgiven between us. I forgive you, and you have forgiven me. Like kind of energy.
Yes, it's like. Have you ever seen Misery? The Stephen King novel adapted to a movie with
no clips and references, but never the full.
Well, I mean, basically like the epitome of like a toxic relationship. Like that's what this is.
Yeah.
Like he's gaslighting this guy into believing that he's somebody that he isn't.
Yeah,
I did not like it.
No, I
at all.
didn't either. It doesn't paint him in a very good light.
No. We get back to the X-Men here. Cyclops with a nice little moment with Wolverine says, "Be the best at what you do. Heal."
Oh, don't break her heart. Like this acknowledgement that he knows how Wolverine feels about Jean, and he's okay with it enough that he wants him to live.
Yeah. Xavier astral projects himself. we now get, they start talking about the gravity core
Yes.
of Asteroid
Yeah.
M as if it is a thing that has been mentioned before. And this bugs the crap. I hate when stuff like this happens. It's not a backbreaker, but it's like, oh, we've got to do this to the gravity core. And it's like, well, what the fuck is that? This is the first I'm hearing about it. What fake science is this?
It's true. Beast and Forge are reading their popular science magazine, a full 4-page feature on gravity cores.
Yeah, yeah. We get a great Nightcrawler praying here.
Yep.
I'm always a sucker for when Nightcrawler prays.
Me too. Yeah. I'm not a person of faith myself, but I respect the sincerity and earnestness with which they just let this be a part of who Nightcrawler is. He is sincere in it. It's not maudlin, and it's not the more distasteful parts that I find of religion, but it's just this, like, his faith is important to him.
Nightcrawler's like my second favorite Christian, hands down. Not even fictional, just of all time.
I'm pretty sure I agree, but who's...
Oh, I have some friends who are religious,
Okay,
so I put them above Nightcrawler. But Nightcrawler is definitely top 3. Rogue with DaCosta here says odds may be bad, but the cards are always in the X-Men favor. Yeah. Love it.
And then we get
and then
in action mode.
Yeah, and oh boy, his name was Gambit. Remember him? And she beats the bag out of Bastion. I love this fight scene.
She punches this motherfucker right to the moon.
She does.
To the blue area.
And she gives him, we don't see this move a lot in cartoons and in live action, but she gives him, the first person who I ever saw do this was the Hulk.
The Hulk clap.
She gives him one of those big, the Hulk clap.
Shockwave, yeah.
I love
it too.
I love that move. I don't know why.
Every single one of Rogue's fights in this series have been great.
You're absolutely right. Every single time she throws down it's a slobber knocker. Yeah. As JR would tell us.
Would.
She handles this dude.
Mm-hmm.
We do see like an apocalypse temple on the moon or whatever this is in the background for a little bit.
The blue area of the moon.
But then
the blue area of the moon.
The blue area, that's what it's called. I typed up the blue part of the moon question mark.
No, an important Marvel Comics location since early Fantastic Four stuff, I think, since like Jack Kirby stuff, right?
Yeah, this is where the Shi'ar take the X-Men when it's a trial for the Phoenix, is it not?
And I think it's also where Uatu the Watcher lives, somewhere in there.
That's his home?
Well, he didn't build it. I think
he's
renting.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, it's an Airbnb.
Yeah, right?
The friggin' laundry list of things you got to do when you leave there once you're done is unbelievable.
That's why he hasn't left.
Yeah, but Bastion choking Rogue is brutal. Yep. She's like gagging on this guy's hand.
He does it with that teleport move, whatever. Looks like,
yes, that was very cool.
The fights look great.
Yeah, they really do. The birth of Sunspot, he looks cool.
Sure does. And I do like the you mentioned it's not just the teleport move that he carries her up, or he doesn't say it, but he's like, I don't need to breathe, motherfucker, you do.
Yeah, it's a really cool. Yeah, that fight just rocks.
They don't mention it outright. I guess it's just implied, but that this is actually consistent. Every time they've shown the blue area in anywhere, like there's breathable atmosphere there, and you leave that area to any other part of the movie, and it's just like normal space where there's no air.
Yeah, it's one of those fun in-world, like you said, places that multiple Marvel properties have used. We go to the whatever it is, the danger room, the red room. For the war room and for the president. And I could not help but pause and get a look at Magneto's file.
Yeah, the Magneto protocols.
Did you get a look at
his
this thing?
Stats chart?
Yes.
Intelligence of 10 and all this whatnot.
We have, so here we go. First off, we have his rating system, which consists of his strength, his intelligence, his speed, a category just defined as fight. Stamina, agility, energy level, and global danger. I do not know. I don't know what fight means.
I don't know either.
It's just fight. Fist fight, I don't like his fighting ability. I don't know. What do they mean by agility versus strength? Like does agility, like how quickly he can do like the 3 cone drill at like the NFL Combine? I don't know. But we do get some AKAs here. Eric Lenscher. Yep. David Hemblin.
I don't know about that one.
I believe it was hard to read. It was a little blurry. And then Ian redacted and Michael redacted.
Oh.
Which is Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender.
Oh, well done.
And I thought that was very
nice
cute.
Little Easter egg.
Yeah. I like that quite a bit. And there was like height and weight and all that too. But then the friggin' president and his people are also talking about the gravity
Yeah.
core of this
That's
goddamn
all people are
thing.
talking about.
How do they know about it? How does everybody know about the gravity core except the
Oh, Brett,
audience? I don't
you don't
understand
remember
this.
in the late '90s before Y2K was the big thing, the gravity cores? It was all the rage.
And then they initiate the Magneto
Yeah.
protocol. We
Which
may
is
have
just
talked about this
shooting
before, but
missiles at asteroid M.
dude, you know what? I'm gonna save it. I'm
Oh,
gonna save it for
please.
when they initiate the Magneto
Yes.
protocol. But you are absolutely right. If God damn it, if there was a government plan named after you, what would it be, Matt?
Oh,
If it was the Matthew protocol,
what would the goal of the operation be, or what would its methodology be?
yeah, or just what anything.
Oh, to keep me distracted enough that I fuck up even harder at life.
Good.
Make me
I think instead of I
heavier.
think
I don't
instead
know.
of instead of missiles, they launch a bunch of jars of mayonnaise at your house.
This podcast is over.
We
You know that's
we go
that's
back
where
to
we're putting in the ad break thing right there.
we go back to Xavier Magneto. We get this a really cool shot where Rogue is on a boat
Wait, are we
and
there
in
yet?
shadow
Did we
around
get?
her.
Oh, I think we skipped
What was
over
happening?
another little cameo bit, which is on the president's video call is not the previous Black Panther, King T'Chaka of Wakanda.
Oh, that is who that.
Yep.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. And Captain America's trying to argue for not doing the Magneto
Yeah,
protocol.
and is completely ignored.
Yes, no, Captain America doesn't realize that he's purely a figurehead. He doesn't have any actual
Yeah, just
power.
like in real life, the adults in the room with the president isn't really a thing that works.
No, not usually. So Rogue is on the boat with Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and Polaris and Shadow, which I thought was really
Yes, I like
cool.
that too. Although puts
And
her in
this
the
is
same
another
category
thing.
as his children, which
Yes, which is quite a party to be
my
to.
adult children and my girlfriend who's the same age as them.
Yeah, my side piece. Magneto says none know what this is like, and I wanted to say hard disagree, Magneto. You have a tough upbringing, no doubt, brutal origin story, but you're not the only survivor of ethnic cleansing. Like this is a thing that has unfortunately happened many times.
Although further lowering the number of people who fully get it, he has been through now 2 genocides
That is true.
and for different pieces of his identity.
Yeah, that so you know what? I gotta hand it
It's
to him.
still
Maybe he
it's still not no one, but it does shrink the pool a bit.
Yeah,
But this
that's
is
true.
where we get more of the Xavier that we are brothers, and it's like you just acknowledge that what you're doing is, as he said earlier, a violation.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to brainwash him, basically. Yeah, it's just not a great look. But then we get back to this fight with Bastion, which is an absolute
Is this
battle.
Is this when you want to talk? There was a thing that you had said you wanted to talk about, and this is when Magneto starts to go into like his memories of the first Holocaust and he can't see his parents' faces and just the impact of this on
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
So when I talk about this now, I think so. I don't think one of my problems with this whole thing is A, that he's wiping his memory. B, he's brainwashing him. And C, even though it's symbolic, like the idea they're drowning in these memories or drowning in this ocean, it's not very dynamic.
No, it's not.
It's not very interesting looking. And so if I were doing this, I think it would be much more interesting. So Magneto says, I can't even see their faces. I've tried every day to see their faces. And Charles is like, well, you were a boy, that's why you can't see it. Which is still like, are you making that excuse because you actually wiped away what his parents look like? Like,
Oops.
what did you scrub this part of his
Did you
mind too?
ever see that thing about? I forget what painting it was, but that some elderly like cleaning woman accidentally erased the face on a famous painting and tried to repaint it, and it.
Yes,
Did
I have
Xavier
seen this
pull
before.
one of those in Magneto's mind? There's just like,
Dude.
like just 2 eyes and a smiley face now on the. Sorry,
Jesus
not to
Christ.
derail you.
So no, because that's exactly what is happening here. So what I wrote is Charles. Let's say Magneto says that, right? Like, let's say he doesn't wipe Magneto's mind, and he's grappling with him, and through their arguing, like Charles can be saying like, well, listen, like you can't give up on people, you can't give up on humanity, and Magneto's like, look at what they've taken from me. Like I can't even remember my parents' faces. right? So let's say he has all his faculties and all that. We're not in the icky area here where Charles is basically trying to brainwash this
Mm-hmm.
guy. And so Charles shouldn't take his memory. He should give him one back.
Mm.
And so Charles can reach into Magneto's mind and bring him back
Oh.
to a memory with his parents.
Mm.
And we could see young Magneto
Huh.
and we could see his folks. And so that's more dynamic because we never get to see that part of that. Like, imagine what Magneto looks like before the tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you could say, like, yes, people took something from you, but this is what they took. They took who this boy was.
Yeah.
Be him again. Like,
Like
that would be more interesting.
Mm.
And it would make Charles not a cult leader who is wiping his friend's memory away.
That it's interesting. First of all, I really like this idea, and it just makes me think of, and this ties to my other job, my day job, where one of the things that's effective in treatment for trauma, there's a whole field like called narrative therapy, basically, where it's learning to stop having the focus be on like the moment or the event and incorporating it into this like larger narrative of my life. Here's this important event, but my story existed before this and it continues after this. And I think you're like incorporating it because it's reconnecting to, yes, this happened, but you existed before then. And everything that happened before then is valid too. And everything I think that it's what you have proposed is psychologically sound. Well done.
Thank you. And like it also would give Xavier so much of his character in this show is like, well, no, you just gotta believe, you just gotta have faith. Like it's very like there's nothing concrete there. So like if he were to actually give a concrete thing to Magneto, which is like this not physical memory, but this actual real memory, like it makes his powers kind of more real in a way, as opposed to just like reading minds and all that. I don't know, but
yeah, no, I
because like just the idea like he's drawing something out, and it would harken back to what he was like at that time, like that, because he was like that whole thing was he was helping people with trauma and he was using his mutant ability to do that, and people didn't realize he was doing that.
Like Gabrielle.
I think yeah, like this is all in the comics. Like if you in certain issues when they dive into their past, they were both helping like survivors of tragedies, you know, military tragedies. But I like that. Like give me something like that.
I like
as opposed to this. Yeah. All right, but we get back to this fight, and this is when we get Nightcrawler, who's like bamfing all over the place and punching him and disappearing, coming back.
The Nightcrawler
and then
Cyclops
he's moving
Jubilee team up.
And he's moving Jubilee around. Yes, he's moving Jubilee around the room, and Cyclops is hitting him. And this scene where Jubilee charges him and like takes a punch in the face and then like grabs him and hits him with the fireworks. Dude, those broken glasses are rad as hell. What a great moment for that character.
And I think because her coup de grace comes in a moment, but first I think Nightcrawler does great, but then he gets taken out. Cyclops steps in. We've commented on it before, but the movement in this animation is great. The way that, and particularly we saw it in the first episode in that fight against the Friends of Humanity. They make Cyclops, his movements great, not just his like eye blast, but like, right. He's not Nightcrawler. He's not teleporting, but he's agile enough to like move just right to dodge and to be in the right place at the right time to strike. It's great. It looks great.
It's awesome. And he even has like a bank shot where he shoots off the wall and it hits him in the side of the face. Yeah, that was awesome. Cool stuff. It's a great fight. It's a really good fight.
Yeah, I love that it is Jubilee who kind of puts, barring the kind of like joke, well, so you could credit it to Beast, but prior to that we get Jubilee's really the one who puts like the biggest hurt on him by the end.
She cuts his wings off with her
the spinning blade, the light blade thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What are you going to
battle
do,
damage
slay me with the 4th
great.
of July?
Yeah. And she just cooks this dude's face and then throws him into
boils him
and throws him into a sentinel head. It's great. And his battle damage mode looks really cool too, where like his like jaws kind of hanging a little bit and his face is
exposed.
Yes.
Something I like, and I was talking about this with Tracy last night because she's been doing the rewatch with me. Jubilee in this series, it's not the Jubilee show. She doesn't get elevated, but instead of having to be like the sidekick here in this, she's just another competent member of the team. And contributes just as much, and maybe even like a little bit plus. Like it's nice that it's not like, and it's all down to Jubilee. It's just she's graduated to being just one of them.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like we said, it's a show that does so well by pretty much every character except for Xavier. Bashing with a really cool line here. He says, "A family that can't save itself works together to die
Yeah.
alone." I like that. I like that quite a bit. And then Beast comes in the Sentinel mech and steps on him.
Greeks did love horses and irony.
Yeah. Turns into Sauron and flies down, which is
Oh,
really cool.
right.
I've always liked Sauron. There's a not great line here, I think, by Nightcrawler, where he goes, "My God, truly he is the future incarnate." And the way that line is read, it made me think of like an old school Toho Godzilla film where like somebody would like point up at Godzilla and say something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a weird
It
line.
was an awkward line. But they needed it to set up the Cyclops. We're going to stop fighting the future thing.
Yeah.
Which,
Yep.
I don't know. It's fine,
okay.
I guess.
It's not as good as Bastion saying humanity would rather die than have kids like
Oh,
us.
yeah.
And that line, I was like, yeah, Bastion's kind of right.
There's a couple of good lines here, too.
and-
We get another classic roguism of Colin saying what he's doing is a dying duck fit. Catch that one? But then Jean has
This
a good
lady.
line, which is that they're having babies and more of them are like us.
Yeah. Oh, and then he says humanity would rather die than have kids like us. But it is interesting with that line, kids like us, he's sort of accepting that he's kind of a mutant.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting turn for that character. But now here we have the Magneto protocols, which is just a bunch of missiles. I don't, and listen, very quickly, Bastion like flies off into like, I don't know, the gravity core, and he just kind of disappears. Yep. So his end is very mysterious and interesting, and we don't really know. Maybe he's part of the time travel, maybe he isn't. That's unresolved. Sure. But now the final quarter of this episode or whatever is Asteroid M plummeting towards the Earth. And boy,
what do you think?
This is even worse than when they brought the helicopters that were made of metal and they thought they were gonna jump Magneto. Typical American hubris. They just blow something up and then shrug their shoulders, and then whoops a daisy, it's hurtling towards the East Coast. Thanks a lot.
Oh, it's gonna fall down.
Yeah.
I wonder if like in this universe there's just a file cabinet full of like all like the Doom protocols, the Omega Red protocols, and it just lists the number of missiles.
Yes.
12 missiles for Magneto.
Yeah, that's what, and maybe they like painted different colors, but what they don't tell you is that this was a government contract that cost like $3 trillion over the course of like 12 years.
Oh my God.
They raised taxes on the 99% of people.
Halliburton and Blackwater produced.
Oh,
they produced
Halliburton
this little
is
folder
deep.
that just said 12 missiles, stats, 11 intelligence, and 12 charm or whatever.
And this was like the third phase. They tried like a plastic missile, didn't work. They tried like a styrofoam missile, didn't work. And they just kept fucking billing us for it. We just kept paying this. They stopped building schools. No, Social Security took a hit just for the fucking Magneto protocols, which was a dozen missiles that don't even work. God damn it.
To hit a target that's going to fall right on your head if you knock it down.
On the East Coast. They say it. Oh, Christ. This is going to happen. There's going to be some fucking stupid Elon Musk sponsored the woke protocols. Oh, no. And they're going to blow up the fucking moon. Yes. And a big chunk of it is going to drop on us.
And he's going to call his asteroid M because his last name is Musk.
Oh, God damn it. God damn it. Morph turns into Mr. Fantastic, which I liked.
Yep.
That was nice.
The thing,
and then,
although I have to say,
go ahead.
Given that they gave Morph their like Age of Apocalypse kind of look for this season, could have just done it as Morph. Like Morph has body changing powers, but I'm going to do what I could do anyway. But I'm going to do it as Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, listen, I appreciate the cameos.
One last.
Well, actually, no, it's not the last. We have 3 more cameos after this. But we get what I think is the best part of this episode, which is Cable recovering in the diner, and then Cyclops and Jean astral project to talk to him. Him saying he should have been in those stories, fighting alongside them, and Jean says you were. I got to tell you, I have a very strong belief that once you become a parent, scenes like this take on a completely different depth of
This I
emotion.
agree with.
And her reaching out and like touching his hand and saying that, I was like, this show, everything else is forgiven. The stupid fucking Magneto protocols, the really bad Xavier portrayal, and like how I do not like that part of this episode. This scene, I think, is excellent.
Yeah, I agree. You get to see the eyes. They're your eyes
Yes,
now. Yeah,
it's
it
great.
is.
It's
It's
really good.
sincere, and that's one of the strengths of this. Well, maybe we'll save it for the re but like the willingness to be sincere.
Yeah. Yep.
I like that even preceding the scene a little bit, that going into this final sequence right there, that the team is going to try to prevent the fall. That it's not literally everyone we've seen this season, like Forge, Cable, Val Cooper, they're on the ground. Jubilee and Sunspot are like clear of it. After you,
Yep. Yep.
and I don't know. I just kind of like that it's like, all right, we're actually taking account of who's there and who's not, versus just like it's everyone.
It's they've given us a good mix of people. Like different characters get to be with each other at different
Yes.
points. I think it works really well. We get a cool, it's like a chanty version of the X-Men theme song,
It is.
which I thought was really nice for the moment. I think it really worked.
Yep.
Last cameo count number 3. We get Peter Parker, Mary Jane, and
Is it Flash Thompson in the background?
Flash Thompson. Thank you. I couldn't think of his first name.
Which I guess now I did watch the Spider-Man cartoon in the 90s, but less religiously than the X-Men. But I guess the way that show abruptly ended, it was like a dangling plot thread of like, did Spider-Man ever find Mary Jane again? I guess she was missing, and this is like like a secret epilogue to that cartoon.
It's like it's kind of a Quantum Leap-esque ending if you ever watched Quantum Leap.
I've seen probably about 3 episodes. It's a cool concept.
But you know that you know what
Yeah,
it's
I
about.
do.
You know the concept. Yeah, so she gets lost in like a Doctor Strange multiverse-esque dimension pocket thing, and he's like looking for her. He can't find her. But yeah, I mean, this much more feels like a that never happened. They're just together.
I did like, and I guess this is kind of concurrent with cameo time, is like Beast's scientific mind trying to find a solution. It is like the most 90s cartoon thing of always like basically the answer is teamwork.
Man, I love Beast. I love Beast just figuring things out.
Yeah.
We get what I think is maybe perhaps one of your favorite scenes here, which is Morph turning into Jean
Yeah.
and telling Logan that they love him.
I don't know if I'd say favorite, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is, I was referencing it earlier. Yeah. Is that for Morph, who didn't get to have a ton of like a character arc and emotional journey over the course of the season, this is an actual like emotion moment with Morph where it's yes, saying what Wolverine needs to hear in the voice he needs to hear it to be maximally effective at like helping him through this. But also you get the sense that this is also a genuine confession.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm, and we'll talk about it later, obviously, but I'm eager for season 2, which is still years away.
Is it years?
But I think last I read it was 2026.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess it'll be a year away
more than a year,
in less than a month.
We're gonna have to
It'll
do a
be
lot of
year away.
bonus eps, Brett.
Yeah, we'll see how this works out. So yeah, we get back to Xavier and Magneto, and they're drowning. But again, I go back to, and I say this because I think my idea is brilliant, and I think they should hire me to write the show with them. But if Charles is like,
I have always thought of you as a white straight Bodemeo.
thank you, I appreciate
Minus
that.
whatever difficult to work with criticisms that have surfaced.
Oh, I'm sure I'd be difficult to work with. I'm sure I would be a terror. But like if it was like that, like because right now we get the really badass Magneto lives, like that's a cool thing. But everything leading up to it isn't great. And I guess I will say this will be the opportunity that I'll take to our listeners if there are any. There
Having a good
is
authority.
a
There
really
actually are some.
Are
Amazing.
there? So there is a really great essay that came out in April of this year by Asher Albeen, I believe is her name, Elbein, called "The Judgment of Magneto," and it's it doesn't I don't have a word count here, but it's a fairly lengthy essay all about how, or it's basically exploring Magneto's Jewishness and how Chris Claremont was Jewish, and how when he came on to the X-Men show, he brought a lot of that, his experiences and the things that he experienced and the things that he sort of lived and saw into the characters. And he took Magneto from this very one-dimensional, I will destroy the world type character into what you and I both believe to be one of the great comic book characters of all time. There's a line here that I'll read. Since his first appearance in the inaugural X-Men comic, He, meaning Magneto, spent 6 decades of Marvel publication history oscillating between supervillainous heel, messianic terrorist, swaggering nationalist, and increasingly heroic anti-fascist. And it's just all about Magneto and the changes he's gone through and sort of the changes of the X-Men and what that's meant and how there's a really interesting, so the writer of this is also Jewish, and she's sort of compares Magneto's journey to changes in Israel, and it also talks about Gaza, and so it is a little bit of a history lesson that is very fascinating, at least for me. I do not know the history of Israel very much, although I have been trying to read a little bit more in my recent years. But it's also it goes through like Grant Morrison's run, and it's also well written, which is always a big thing for me. I
You
can't
sent it to me, and I
stand
did read it. Yeah.
yeah, I can't stand when people get paid to write and they write like they're still in high school. It drives me up a fucking wall. But it's really good. I think perhaps when we post this on YouTube, we can put this in. We can include this link. But if you have the time and if you're interested, I read it and I immediately texted Matt because I thought it was an excellent little essay.
And we'll send it out on Blue Sky and stuff. We'll include links there as well.
Oh, absolutely, yes. So yes, this ending is a little muddled. Magneto lives, he saves Asteroid M from plummeting into the Earth, and then things just blink out and we have no idea what's happening. This then just gives us a nice 6 months later. We get a very cool Days of Future Past-esque board that Forge has set up. We get some interesting things that I noted here. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are noted as being off-world. Cable is AWOL. And some of the people who are not, it doesn't say anything about them. Their pictures are just there. Exodus, Dust, Shadowcat, Colossus, and Ilyana.
Iceman, I think, too. Yeah.
Oh, was he? I
yeah, this is one where I saw the episode when it aired or whatever, and I immediately, it was like, somebody took screen caps of this. I gotta see this board in more detail.
Oh, yeah. I you know what? You were smart to look it up online. I paused my TV and I was like trying to make sense of every single picture.
And I think notably, Jubilee and Sunspot are also listed as AWOL.
Oh, really? Oh, I did not know that. I didn't notice that.
So I have thoughts about the continue, and then because I guess what we're now getting into is Bishop arrives and basically introduces the idea that they didn't vanish to a place, they vanished to time. But something I liked that they did was they didn't send all of them to the same times.
Yes, I really like that. Before we jump into these two time periods, something I really thought was interesting is that we get some world building from this radio, which is that it seems like Graydon Creed is running for president because he says he's up in the polls. Because the president, understandably, is taking a hit for the Magneto protocols, which were a complete disaster. It also mentions extremists in Santo Marco preaching the second coming of Magneto. And I wasn't sure if that was a reference to the Acolytes.
I think it's an even older reference. I think in issue 4 or 5 in like the 60s, one of the earliest Magneto episodes, it was when he and his new brotherhood attack this island nation of San Marco and take it over. And it's the debut of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch and Mastermind and Toad.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think. I could be misremembering.
So a lot of different potential threads for them to follow in season 2. But we go back to the past, Egypt, 3000 BC. And Rogue is just tossing these Egyptian cards.
That's right. This punching and throwing people still works in the past. Nightcrawler gets in on it too. He just teleports one up and just drops him. What a great simple attack from Nightcrawler to just teleport up and let go.
Yeah, it's great. And so we have Rogue, Nightcrawler, Beast, Professor X, Magneto coming upon this mysterious fighter who reveals himself to be Unsubordinate.
I mean, you see Ancient Egypt. If you like the X-Men, you know exactly where this is going. But there's the reveal.
Yeah. And then in the future, 3960, Cyclops and Jean meet up with the Ascani, which is very cool. I love the way this looks. They're also in Egypt, if you notice the pyramids in the background.
Yeah, and that is, I may have mentioned in a previous episode, but to just barely open the X-Files a little bit, there was a 90s mini-series, four issues, The Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, where it was the two of them. It happens a little, but sent to this time specifically to get to be with young Nathan. And Mother Ascani, is that Rachel Summers in the comics?
I forget. I mean, it's very hard for me to keep track of. I mean, we could probably look it up, but We do get a great final line, which is Beast looking out over this area in Egypt and just going, "Oh dear," and then it ends. I love it.
Ends well until there's the stinger as well.
There is a stinger. You are right. Rachel Summers at one point was
Oh,
Mother
there we go.
Ascani.
A character who I don't think has been
Oh,
introduced yet in this show.
no. And interestingly enough, of all the characters that get sent to different places, Storm is unaccounted for.
So this is what I was going to talk about. Maybe we'll do this before the stinger. Is we have multiple starting points going into season 2 because we've got Cyclops and Phoenix are in the far future. Xavier, Magneto, Beast, Rogue, Nightcrawler are in the distant past. Forge and Bishop are. It looks like they're going to assemble an X-Men team out of who is not yet accounted for. Cable, Sunspot, and Jubilee are listed as AWOL, which they might be setting up X-Force.
Yeah, I was
with
thinking,
Jubilee
yeah.
kind of a stand-in for Boom Boom,
Or maybe New Mutants.
or
Who knows?
well,
because he also trained
and New Mutants became X-Force. That was the
Oh, did it?
yeah, the like literally like the book New Mutants ended and X-Force was the next issue.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
So we get a past, a future, 2 present, and then the stinger brings in this, I guess maybe 5th starting point, which is Apocalypse's arrival to Genosha and commenting on holding Gambit's Queen of Hearts card and saying so much death, which a little reference to Gambit has been death in the comics.
Yeah, and possibly bringing him back and making him his horseman.
Seems, boy, what a useless scene if that's not what they're doing.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, when you think about it, they really do set up a lot, especially if the stuff over the radio is like also sort of adding into what's going to happen in the present day, and like the Great and Creed running for president, which doesn't have to be like a huge plot line, but would be interesting, and this sort of these extremists for Magneto. But so much going on.
A lot going on. Yep, and that's the end. We did it. 10. All 10.
We did it.
And I think, as we've alluded to, we are intending to do a full season in review as our next one. And then after that, sky's the limit. We've texted back and forth about some one-offs that we could explore. We want to keep doing this. We're having a great time. Maybe it'll slow down the release a little bit, but we certainly will still be in business by the time there's a second season to talk about.
And if there's a second season, we could even try, who knows, to keep up with it and release each episode. But who knows?
Tough, a weekly. We could try.
We could try.
We'll quit our jobs that actually pay us, and then we'll have time to do it.
Oh yeah. Just not even a Patreon. Just give us the money.
And I would love, as the episodes have been airing, I really liked the time we had John as a guest. Love to have more guests in the future as well. There's
That'd be great.
A lot of angles to explore.
Almost as many angles as they appear to be exploring for season 2,
kidding.
but we'll see.
All right. Any final comments on this, just episode 10?
Yeah, I think it's a good ending to this season. I don't think it's a top 3 episode of the season.
Nope.
And that's because there've been so many great episodes. But it has like, if you think about like Cyclops and Jean, it did such a great job with those characters. It brought them to I think to new heights. It did so much for, I don't want to say rehabilitating, but reigniting how cool Cyclops is for a lot of people, because I feel like in pop culture he hasn't had that in a long time.
Cyclops Redemption Tour.
And not only does it stick that landing for this season with that where they say goodbye to Cable, but then it puts them in an even more interesting position for the next season. So it's great for them. Jubilee, she has that great evolution where now she's just like a full-time badass member. Sunspot has become Sunspot. He's accepted himself as a mutant. It lands a lot of the many planes that it is flying. It lands more planes than the X-Men do throughout the season. That's for sure.
That's true. They have like a 15% successful landing ratio.
Yeah. And,
they're neck and neck with Launchpad McQuack for how they land these planes.
God. And I'm glad that, even though it's not my favorite episode of the final 3, I just couldn't believe that they did it as well as they did it, and that they gave us as much stuff to chew on for season 2. And I am just really happy. I'm so critical of superhero stuff these days. The new trailer for James Gunn's Superman just dropped.
I'm gonna watch that.
I'm texting with friends who are more DC guys, and I'm already aggravated with them and their opinions. And so to have this show and this episode with all its flaws, I'm still so glad that it exists.
Yeah. I think probably pretty similar. I agree. It's not one of the finest there are just some absolute gems of episodes. But this is solidly in like to me, it's good. Like this is a good one, and some parts very good.
Yeah.
When I remember it, like where my brain goes first, I don't immediately think of the Xavier Magneto thread in the episode as much, which I realize it's one of the central ones, but because that's just not as centered, my initial memory is like, oh wow, I had a great time watching this. And then when we get in, we dive in, it's like, oh yeah, we spend a lot of time on this kind of questionably executed thread, which you live proposed a more interesting, better version. Yeah, this could have been elevated higher than it was, but still, I am satisfied as a solid conclusion to a very good first season of this show. And given how tepid so many like reboot type things are, really,
you're not kidding,
far exceeded my expectations.
I'll put it this way. My final note is we just did all 10 episodes, talking extensively about each episode. Like, each episode is an hour that we've done. And
more than
I still have stuff to say, and I'm still excited to do a full season recap with you and just talk about the whole thing and just give, one last sort of bon voyage to the show, because I think it was so well done, and I could not be happier.
So that is it for season 1 of X-Men 97. But it's not the end of Man, Children of the Atom. And so we can still say, we'll see you next time.
Next time.
Our theme song was written and recorded by Cheer Captain. Find Cheer Captain at cheercaptain.bandcamp.com. To contact Matt or Bret, email us at manchildrenoftheatom@gmail.com.